Untamed at Walibi Holland is an exceptional roller coaster. This Rocky Mountain construction hybrid roller coaster opened in the summer of 2019, and it is my favorite roller coaster in all of Europe. This video will be a review of this RMC steel creation and explain why you should head out to the Netherlands to ride it as soon as you can. 13 of the 14 RMC hybrid coasters were converted from a previously existing wooden roller coaster, and Untamed is no different. Untamed was a conversion of the park's former Robin Hood. In 1998, Premier Parks purchased all the Walibi parks, and shortly thereafter, they purchased Six Flags. So in 2000, this park was rebranded as Six Flags Holland, and with that came 4 brand new roller coasters, 3 of which were from Vekoma, and one of those rides was Robin Hood. Vekoma has built 383 different roller coasters, but only 3 of those rides were made of wood. All 3 of those wood coasters were built between 2000 and 2001, and all 3 were built in Europe. And Robin Hood was the prototype wooden roller coaster for the company. Robin Hood ultimately was an odd choice for an RMC conversion for several reasons. First, it had modest stats compared to the other 13 wood coasters that were converted. Robin Hood stood 105 feet or 32 meters tall, reached a top speed of 50 miles per hour or 80 kilometers per hour, and traveled 3,396 feet or 1,035 meters. Only roared Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, Hurler at King's Dominion, Georgia Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia, and Twisted Twins at Kentucky Kingdom were shorter. But as we saw with Joker, Twisted Timbers, Twisted Cyclone, and Storm Chaser, RMC can work with layouts of any size and make a great ride. Second, Robin Hood was not a horrifically rough ride. Almost every RMC conversion was of a wood coaster that would beat you up. I never rode Robin Hood, but the ride received quite a bit of retracking in the years before its closure, and late reviews of the coaster said it was still an enjoyable experience. That being said, I think everyone agrees that Untamed is better. One interesting thing about Robin Hood being selected as the first RMC conversion in Europe is that Vekoma is responsible for selling RMC coasters outside the North American market, and the ride that was converted first was a Vekoma. Robin Hood had a U-shaped out and back layout, and Untamed followed that course exactly, but there are 2 notable things about this layout. First, it has the most inversions of any RMC with 5. These inversions complement the barrage of airtime hills perfectly and don't feel forced in any way. Second, this conversion actually made the coaster longer. This makes it the 3rd conversion to be longer than the original, joining Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point and Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion for that distinction. Untamed is roughly 200 feet longer than Robin Hood. Untamed was made 15% taller than Robin Hood, which allows it to reach a greater max speed of 57 miles per hour or 92 kilometers per hour. When you reach Untamed, you are greeted by an impressive entrance plaza. The ride has a massive sign and a queue line that winds its way through the middle of the coaster, giving you some of the best views of the ride. Plus, you can see a small tribute to Robin Hood that they have kept standing. Now be prepared to wait a while though. I visited a month after Untamed opened on a Wednesday, and Untamed had a 1.5 to 2 hour wait most of the day. For that reason, I invested in the park's fast lane system, which enabled me to get 8 rides on this amazing coaster. And the line was long for a few reasons. For one, it was the new ride in 2019, so it had the popularity boost. 2, it was an amazing ride that people wanted to get back in line for. 3, and the biggest issue I saw, the ride was unreliable in its opening year. On the day I visited, Untamed did not open until the mid-afternoon. And when it did open, the ride was only running 1 train. I heard the lift motor was overheating, so the park was running 1 train to try to prevent that from happening. The ride did add the 2nd train though right before closing to help clear out the queue line. I'm not sure if Untamed still has these issues or if they have been resolved, but I found them a bit odd considering the other RMCs in the US don't seem to have this issue. Now let's talk about the coaster's theme. It's rather odd. The ride is part of the wilderness area, and the ride has jungle elements with the overgrown plants and the bug-themed Zero Car, the latter of which looks amazing. But it also feels like a party with all the flashing lights, drum beats, and lettering in the ride station and plaza. Untamed runs the RMC rolling stock, which are fine for me. The restraints will fit snugly, especially the shin guards if you're taller, but I had no issue experiencing this coaster's airtime, and trust me, there was plenty of it. Every seat on this coaster gives amazing airtime, but I do think it's a bit stronger in the back, which is why I spent almost all my rides in that seat. Untamed begins with this funky outward bank turn. It didn't do too much for me, but it sends a signal to riders that this coaster is going to have some crazy profiling. You then ascend the 120 foot or 36.5 meter tall lift, which faces away from the main park, and then you crest the first drop and the mayhem ensues. The first drop is your typical RMC first drop, and that's definitely not a bad thing. It's steep and it gives you a very strong burst of ejector airtime. That is followed by a tiny speed hill that rides similarly to the ones you can find on Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain and Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. You get an abrupt pop of airtime that sort of throws you diagonally forwards. Then comes a unique element to Untamed, the double inverting stall. This is probably my favorite element on the entire ride, and it's also one of the best inversions anywhere, as you get this crazy sustained hang time while your body is maneuvered side to side. And this is all while you're narrowly avoiding the ride support structure on all sides. That's followed up by this odd double up. The first half gives an ejector pop. The second part is abruptly banked at the top, so you get this delicious combination of an abrupt ejector airtime moment that morphs into solid laterals on the curving drop. The next two hills give the best sustained ejector airtime on the entire ride. The Camelback feels identical to the second hill in Storm Chaser. You are forcibly launched out of your seat for a few consecutive seconds. Then comes the off-axis hill that feels like the love child of Steel Vengeance's giant outward banked hill and the wave turn of Twisted Cyclone. You get sustained ejector airtime while you're on your side. It's this type of airtime that RMC is the master of. Then comes the turnaround. It starts with a floaty 0G roll that delivers a few seconds of glorious hang time. You then wrap around and rise up another off-axis hill. This one offers floater airtime unlike the prior one, but is sustained for equally as long. You then get 3 consecutive pops of ejector airtime on the following double up and double down. You barely have time to return to your seat in between those airtime pops. It's sort of similar to the trick track double ups on both Twisted Timbers and Storm Chaser. That is followed by another off-axis hill, except this one banks you 140 degrees, so it does count as the ride's fourth inversion. The sensations of the element are similar to a 0G roll, as you get sustained hang time coming mere inches from the ride support structure. You then whip through an overbank, which is the lone element in the ride that doesn't give airtime or hang time, but it does change your direction so quickly that it doesn't disrupt the ride's pacing. You'll ask yourself how you started going in a different direction. Then comes a barrage of airtime hills reminiscent of Steel Vengeance's finale. You haul over 4 straight bunny hills, getting violently yanked out of your seat on each one. After this airtime assault, you are surprised by the ride's final inversion, a low-to-the-ground inline twist. Despite the speed at which you take this element, you're actually going surprisingly fast considering you're towards the end of the ride. You're going to get sustained hang time on this element because of how stretched out it is. It feels similar to the first barrel roll on Outlaw Run. You also have a head chopper with the ground, which is a very unique visual you don't often get on a coaster. While it does feel like you're inches from the ground, the barrel roll is followed by a surprise dip that gives another abrupt pop of airtime. You then snap up into the brake run, getting one last pop of airtime throughout the train. Untamed is relentless. One of the things this coaster does best is the pacing. Every single element except that overbank, and that overbank is over in an instant, offers hang time or airtime. And that airtime is a mix of sustained ejector, sustained floater, and violent ejector pops. I've heard a lot of people refer to this coaster as a mini Steel Vengeance, and it's not hard to see why, considering how much airtime this coaster contains. Plus, look at how many comparisons I made to that ride in this review. The one weakness I can point out with this ride is that it doesn't really have any strong positive Gs, but that doesn't bother me considering how well the coaster succeeds elsewhere. So what would I rate Untamed? Was there any doubt? This coaster earns a perfect 10 out of 10. The coaster is pretty much perfect. The pacing, inversions, and airtime hills are all top notch. The theme is eccentric, but it gives the ride a party atmosphere, which gets you even more hyped up for your ride. Untamed is currently my second favorite steel coaster after Steel Vengeance, and comfortably my top 5 coasters overall, and I don't see it moving from those spots anytime soon. So those are my thoughts on Untamed, the wild hybrid roller coaster at Walibi Holland. What are your thoughts on this coaster? Have you ridden Untamed? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.